back to my mother. 7.5 years later, she's now taking edibles at night. She can't sleep. She went through all the processes of taking Ambien, taking sleeping pills, all that type of stuff. And I was like, Mom, just just do this for me.
Did she come to you
She
or
came
not
to me.
really?
I always said like you should take edibles, but then I never like pressed it, right? Because obviously it's still my mother. But I would say the last time, this is actually fairly recent, about 6 months ago, she was up at my house with my kids, and I was like, why don't you just try one, right? And you're downstairs, like if anything happens, I'll be right here for you. And
At a party?
no, 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 to go to sleep.
Oh,
First few weeks on the operational side in the medical industry, I'd have cancer patients come up to me and say, it's the first time I've had hope in 8 years, right?
hmm.
By just taking medical cannabis. So,
We're excited to get into medical cannabis with Carl today. He is the owner of Budr Dispensary or Cannabis. That's the name of the company,
other
right?
cannabis,
And Derek is the co-owner.
correct.
You're a busy guy, so thanks for making the time to be
Thanks for
here.
having me.
When did Budr Cannabis come to be?
Budr Cannabis opened 2.5 years ago, July in 23. We now have 5 stores open and expected to have 5 more in the next 12 months.
Oh my goodness. Well, I feel like we have a lot of ground to cover
Yep.
because you have such unique insight in terms of the cannabis, would you say market in general, bringing new products to our communities. I have told you so many times that I feel like Budr is such a cool brand. I feel like you guys brought cannabis to our community in a fun and relatable way. Tell me how that came to be.
Yeah, so we kind of took a step back and wanted to see what we wanted the consumer to think about us. And it was really a welcoming, homey type of vibe in our stores while a refreshing brand into the state of Connecticut. Connecticut has been stale for the last, call it 10 years in terms of brands and new brands in the market. So we just wanted to be that new thing. And we've getting great feedback from all the consumers. And we just want to continue to increase that brand loyalty.
I love that. I've told you this story before, but for those that are listening, I live in town with one of your first stores, right?
Yep,
And I was waiting for it. When I heard Budr was coming to town, I just thought it was so cool. I love the branding. It felt like it took a really long time though to
the
come.
first store took forever.
Yeah.
We won our first license back in early 22, so it was about 20 months until the time that we won the license until the time that we opened. So it was crazy.
You said 20 months.
Yeah, about 20 months.
Yeah, that's a long time. So, how we met or how we kind of intersect, I'm a provider in the program and I just walked into your store as a customer just trying to check it out. But that store is not medical. What store is medical? It's
Stratford.
Stratford. So, I'm a provider in the program and I help patients get the care that they need, and that includes medical cannabis. So, what are the customers, patients that you're seeing? What are they looking to treat with cannabis?
Yeah, so the reality of the situation, and adult use customers are self-medicating in about 60% of them. So most of our number one kind of conditions are sleep and helping people sleep. So we try and treat them with certain products and certain forms that will help them through sleep. Number two is chronic pain. We always see issues with people saying, "Oh, I have pain in my shoulder, I have pain in my hips. How can I help? What can I use?" All those types of things. So I would say those are the number two, the top two conditions that we see and help people on a daily basis.
Chronic pain signs, I would say, is the strongest that we have. Sleep is sort of moderate. So, what are you suggesting when patients come in when they're in chronic pain?
Unfortunately, it's different if you're a medical patient and or a recreational customer because there's two different subsets of products that are available to you. So if you come into one of our adult use stores or recreational stores, like in West Hartford, what we can treat you with is different than what we can treat you with if you came into our hybrid store in Stratford. That being said, for chronic pain, high CBD is going to help a lot, or high CBG. These are both cannabinoids of the plant that are really directed into helping you with the pain and anti-inflammatory aspects of that pain. So those are the two types of things that we try and help with. We always take a step back and ask, the customers, try and build that fundamental relationship with them on what are you looking for? How do you consume? How do you want to consume? What do you want out of this? Because that always plays a factor in what we're trying to achieve with each different customer.
Got it. I feel like that's something that we should get into a little bit more because somebody that's maybe newer to cannabis, they
Mhm.
don't understand that there's different ways to consume.
Right.
Flower obviously is something that I think people are all familiar with, but what are the other paths that they can take if they're looking to consume cannabis?
Sure. So on the recreational side, your main form factors are going to be flower. So that consists of the buds that are in jars and or pre-rolls, which are smokable joints. Then you'll have vapes, which are highly concentrated oils in a cartridge. Then you'll have edibles, which are your normal small little square gummies that you'll intake for eating. And then the medical side, you have a few other things that are not offered on the recreational side. So you have your topicals, tinctures, and tablets, and those really help on the chronic pain. So topicals are great for just alleviating really generalized pain in certain areas. And those are the real big differences. And there's higher potencies on those products as well on the medical side, so it's easier to treat people with those types of conditions.
So what I'm hearing is that you have greater access to products if you are in the medical side.
Yep. So you have greater access to products. That's number one. And number two is the types of products in terms of the potency. And lastly is the pricing. So pricing is normally cheaper on the medical side, as well as there's no taxes on the medical products. So you're saving a lot of money per purchase.
Nice. Why wouldn't you get your card then?
Yeah, so the only real con is anonymity. So basically, if you're part of the medical program, you're tracked by the state. And when I say tracked, all of your purchases are tracked in terms of the prescription monitoring program. And then there's certain things with whether you can have a medical card, have a gun permit. That's always a huge question. Have a CDL, a driver's license while having your medical card. So becomes like what you're doing, how you're doing it, and then ultimately if how you prefer about your data and all that stuff with the government.
Got it. So if somebody had their pistol permit, could they be a candidate for a medical card or no?
So technically, no.
Okay.
I mean, I've heard of situations where patients try and skirt the system, but if you have your gun permit first, you're not supposed to be awarded the medical license. But um, I mean, there are certain situations.
Okay. Got it. Are you part of the medical program?
I am not because I am not a resident of Connecticut.
Oh yeah, that's
You
right.
have to be a resident of Connecticut.
Got it. What made you come to Connecticut?
So I was in cannabis for 8 years. I was employee number 36 at Acreage Holdings, which is a big multi-state operator. Ran their finance operations back in the day. Ultimately wanted to be out in the operational field, so I raised my hand to come run their three medical facilities in Connecticut. So I was basically leading their state. That ultimately led me to the operational side. When I was first few weeks on the operational side in the medical industry, I'd have cancer patients come up to me and say, "It's the first time I've had hope in 8 years," right?
Mm-hmm.
By just taking medical cannabis. So that for me made me want to dive in deeper.
Yeah.
Just seeing the real aspects on the ground. I always heard about it, but then seeing it day to day, and ultimately just worked hard, rolled up my sleeves, created relationships, and then decided it was time to start my own thing. And that happened almost 3 years ago now.
I feel like those stories are so cool to hear. Like patients that were really touched by cannabis in a way that's like so meaningful and life changing. I think cancer is one of them. Epileptic patients, am I saying that right?
Yep.
And then also chronic pain to your point. What other patients are you seeing that are benefiting?
So I mean, cancer patients always have the most touching to me because I really help them the most, I would say, in terms of the daily life. So you have PTSD is also another common one.
Yeah,
Chronic pain is also another common one. So I would say those three are like
those are like
the
my
biggest.
top two, I would say, qualifying
Yeah, so I would
diagnoses.
say those are by far like what you see the most of in terms of the day to day.
Hmm.
And I mean the qualifying condition list keeps expanding. I think there's up to
I should know
45.
this.
Don't quote me off the
I
top
don't
of my
know.
head, but there's a few added here and there. So
Cool. How easy is it to get a med card?
I think it's pretty easy. I mean, right now, I mean, you of all people know that, right? So, I
I'm
mean,
more or less teasing.
yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, all you do is we give you the name of a doctor or certifying prescriber in the store, and then you would reach out to them. They would see you, ensure that everything from a diagnosis standpoint is okay, and then they would grant you that card. There is no fee to the state anymore, so there's just your fee to the doctor, and then once that happens, it takes about a week to get your card, and you go to a dispensary. They make you sign a few disclosures, and then ultimately you meet with a pharmacist. That's another key point of Connecticut market. There are pharmacists on staff in the cannabis in the medical cannabis dispensaries. So that is really a great thing from a medical standpoint, right? So they have the wherewithal to understand kind of all of the interactions with medications and give advice as needed to your certain situations, and then ultimately help you on your path.
I feel like it's so easy now. It was once a longer process to get certified or get your card, and now it's very quick.
Yeah, I started in Connecticut back in 18, and it took about 2 to 3 weeks for a card to get approved by the state. Now it's within, call it,
A
hours,
day. Yeah.
24 hours.
Mhm.
So it's crazy to see, and I do think it should have always been that way. How just because medical patients are in need, right?
Mhm.
So to make them wait 2 to 3 weeks to get their medication was tough. But it's good that we've been able to bridge that gap.
Mhm. I love that. So, really easy to get your card. You just need to be hooked up with a provider that's in the program, and then you establish care with them, go through your medical history, look at your medications, make sure there's no contraindications. We are having those conversations about cannabis and how to start, but I think from the medical side, we have seen challenges with supply in the medical program. Can you speak to that and what's
Yeah.
happening there?
Yeah, so anytime a state that goes recreational or adult use, you'll always see a pretty quick dip in medical patients. That's just the nature of geographic locations, convenience to the consumers, all that type of stuff. At the peak of the Connecticut market, I think was actually in COVID. We were at like 60,000 patients.
Okay.
Now we're at 30,000 patients, right? So there's two situations, right? One is convenience, but then two is there's few cultivators in the state. I think there's only 7 cultivators in the state right now, and they're always going to make it their point to provide to the adult use or recreational market just because the sheer numbers are there in terms of profitability for their business. There are a few that don't lose sight of the medical patients. That being said, we have seen flower potency, a lot of the products like tablets and tinctures go by the wayside, just because they've really focused on their capacity and their facilities to the recreational market. It's a disservice to medical patients, and we're fighting for that at the legislative level to ensure those products come back. We're also going to be building a microcultivation facility this year, so it's super exciting that we will be bringing products to the market by next year. Um, Hopefully, we'll have 8 facilities by then, and we'll have a microcultivation facility. So we want to listen to the consumers on the ground and ultimately bring products to life that are really meaningful to them.
Is there something that you're excited about that's coming in terms of a product that's meeting those needs?
I don't want to give everything away right
Okay.
now. There are things that
Not
I'm
even like a
excited.
little tiny
There
like
are things that I'm
sneak
excited.
peek.
There no,
Okay.
I can't give the secrets away right now, but
Okay.
there will be a brand of products that come to market that we're excited about.
Okay. Back to the issues with the medical supply, I feel like what I tell my patients is that they should make a relationship or find a pharmacist at your facility or another facility because they don't necessarily know what is going to meet their need.
Right.
Is that something that your pharmacists do? Are they able to help our patients find the right product for themselves?
For sure. So, when you come in first to our facilities, and specifically Stratford, because it is a medical facility, we ensure that you meet with a pharmacist the first time in, whether that's a 2 minute conversation or a 2 hour conversation. It's really dependent on the patient, right? You could have 1,000 questions, we'll have 1,000 answers, or we'll find the answers if necessary. That being said, it's a trial by error, right? What I
Hmm.
use for cannabis may not be the same effect that you use for cannabis, right? So we'll ask all the fundamental questions that are needed. We'll give recommendations, and then we'll use technology to track those recommendations to ensure that when you come back in, we understand what you took in the past and what worked and what didn't work, right? And ultimately, it's a trial by error because of those certain circumstances.
Can you walk us through? I'm thinking back when I visited your store and you were at the counter and you sort of gave me like a high level. You didn't know who I was at the time or knew that I was affiliated with the program. Act as if we have no idea what cannabis is. Give us like the high level intro to medical cannabis. Is
Sure,
that
sure.
too
Yeah, no, that's
much?
not too much. No, I'm just thinking about how happy I am that like I was behind the counter, right? I
Hmm.
mean, you mentioned that story, but like
Hmm.
it goes to a testament of like who we are as a company, right?
Hmm.
Because I try and instill that in my team, right? I mean, it's really that educational aspect and making sure that you connect with one individual one on one every single time, right? And that goes a long way. Look, right? I mean, we had a simple conversation that day, and now I'm here filming a podcast with you, right? So, I mean, it's awesome. It's awesome to see. So, I mean, introductory. I mean, it's really about who you are, right? My brand itself is we had 1,200 applications for the West Hartford store to fill 13 spots. What I look for in people is good-hearted people, right? I can't teach that. I can teach everything else from an educational aspect. But being a good-hearted person is ultimately the first step, right? And I know this is a long-winded answer to that question, but it really plays a point into that situation. So what we're trying to do is instill good fundamental connections between our employees to our patients and our customers. Once you build that fundamental relationship, right? Saying simply who are you, how are you, who are you, finding out what you're about, and then ultimately gaining that trust, right? If we don't have that trust and ability to gain that trust with our customers, they're never going to open up to us on what they're really feeling, right? And it's going to be hard for us to really treat them in the correct fashion. So once we gain that trust in them, then we'll start to delve into how do we consume, right? What type of ways do you want to consume, right? So first question I'm always asking is, what are you here for? So if you tell me you're having trouble sleeping, right? Then I'm always going to be like, well, okay, so how do you want to consume? Do you want to smoke? Do you want to vape? Do you want to take edibles? What are you thinking? For us in this situation, then we go through terpenes, which
Can we
are
like mock it? Can we say like I'm here for sleep and I don't want to smoke?
sure. Is that what you're going?
Yeah, that's what I'm going with.
Okay, so and you don't want to smoke.
Hmm.
Have you ever vaped before? Do you want to do edibles or
I don't think
just
I want to smoke at all. I don't want to have that risk my lung health.
okay, so no lung health. So ingesting edibles is going to be your best way and or
Okay.
tinctures. Unfortunately, here in the West Hartford store,
Hmm.
we don't have tinctures available. That being
Okay.
said, I think edibles will be the best for you if you don't want any risk to your lungs.
Hmm.
So all of our edibles are 5 milligrams or right around 5 milligrams per state legislation. That doesn't mean you can't cut them in half, right? If you've never taken an edible before. How's your tolerance?
I would say pretty good.
Pretty good.
Hmm.
Have you taken edibles before?
I have.
And what milligrams have you done?
I do not know.
You don't know?
Mm-mm. Maybe 2.5.
2.5?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's not a high
I'm
tolerance.
just throwing something out
Yeah,
there.
yeah, well, you contradicted yourselves.
Okay, thanks for correcting me.
So we I always tell customers and our patients start low and go slow,
Yeah.
right? So for us is let's find a edible that is a nighttime edible to help you sleep. So we'll go through what I would show you next is our terpene wheel. Our terpenes are essential oils of the plant that are really directed to give you the effect that you're looking for, right? So THC, everybody comes in, I just want the highest THC potency. And yes, probably 70% of our customers still shop that way. Our job is trying to educate them around how not to do that, right? So now we'll show you, well, do you want to sleep or do you just want the highest potency, right? So we'll show you the terpenes on the wheel, right? And every single terpene has a dialed in effect. So for you specifically, myrcene and caryophyllene are going to be more of the sedating terpenes that help you sleep or relax at night. And then also CBN, which is a cannabinoid designed to help you sleep,
Hmm.
is going to even give you that further effect. So let's find you an edible that has those two terpenes in it. plus that cannabinoid in it to really get you into that sleep mode, right? Now, what do we look at, right? So if you're high tolerance, right, most likely you're going to be able to start with 5 milligrams. So we'll give you a 20 pack of 5 milligrams CBN edibles, and that are indica leaning, which are the myrcene and caryophyllene, and then also um, say, hey, take one and take it right before you go to bed.
Mhm.
Make sure you take it right before you go to bed because you want it to hit you while you're sleeping. If you don't want that high feeling or that high psychoactive effect while you're awake, don't take
Mhm.
it 2 hours before bed because then it's going to hit you while you're awake. So if you're a light sleeper or if it takes you a while to go to sleep, take it right before and try that throughout the night. See how you feel the next morning, right? If it worked, great. 5 milligrams is your right dose. If you're too groggy, then that probably means you took too much, right?
Mhm.
If it didn't work at all, then that means you up your dosage. So let's cut the next one in half and take 7.5 milligrams. And that's a trial by error every night.
Got it. I love that you're taking the time to walk every patient through that and introduce
And customer.
terpenes. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Well, patient is not a
Oh,
customer
sorry,
for us.
sorry, sorry, customer. Got it. How many terpenes are there?
A lot.
Is there a number?
I don't know the direct number, but we focus on the eight main terpenes.
Okay. And same with cannabinoids, right? Like THC obviously is like the most studied as well as CBD.
Yep.
And then CBN you mentioned. Are there any other?
CBG is
Oh yeah,
kind of
you
the
said
next
that.
spec. I
Okay.
would say those four are like the main right now. I mean, I think
Okay.
like we'll see further cannabinoids introduced down the line in terms of the plant itself.
Okay. Like are they all identified and we're just not studying them or is it like to be determined? Do you know?
I don't know off the top
I
of
don't
my
know
head.
either. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
What's your favorite terpene?
My favorite terpene, I used to be a huge myrcene guy, but now I'm a limonene guy. So
Why?
I went from myrcene, always wanted to be sedated at the end of the night because I've had long days with my kids, to
Mhm.
limonene, which is like an uppity feeling because I need more of that feeling to get stuff done.
Got it.
I've been using it actually at night, usually to get more work done, to do some cleaning, all that type of stuff. So interesting. I did a complete 180, but
Mhm.
that's my personal preference now.
So it helps you like lock in, do some work.
Lock in and focus.
Does it keep you awake?
Sometimes, I mean, depending on what I'm taking. I mean, yeah, but I know that going in. So I I'm a user of my products and I try and test it as much as possible to give the best feedback. I really do think that being a user helps, giving my personal experience to customers. So I'm thankful that I understand the products enough to know how it's going to make me feel on a dialed in approach here.
Got it. I want to talk to you about testing, like quality and understanding potency. Is there something that you guys do to assure that, or does that happen on
Yeah,
the
so
cultivation
we
side?
don't do that at the dispensary level,
Okay.
or the retail facility level. What we do is get all the COAs or certificate of analysis from the cultivators.
Mhm.
So the cultivators, and I'm not an expert in this, but the cultivators are required to do final form testing of all of their batch products, meaning that they'll send it out to an in-state lab. So all of these products will be tested formally, and either get a pass or fail. If they get a pass, then obviously then they're able to be sold to the dispensaries or the retail facilities. If they get a fail, then they either have to remediate them, meaning that they can undergo through processes to retest, to change like the function of the plant, to retest them, or they can extract them, meaning that they can put it through an extraction machine and basically put it to distillate and oil, which goes into your carts. So those are kind of the two pathways there.
Is there anything that would like stop the process? Like, is there like a hard stop in that testing? Like, I'm concerned for mold and things that are like growing in the plant.
Yeah, so I mean, the hard stop is the foul, right? So I
Mhm.
mean, the foul is meaning that you can't sell that flower to the public. Um, However, from my understanding is that even if you do fail, you can still go through the extraction technique because the
So it's
extraction
like
technique,
lost.
I'm sorry.
It's not lost.
Yeah,
It's
it's
okay.
not lost. So, I mean,
Or
it could be
yes.
lost. You could destruct it if you decide to, but
Mhm.
theoretically, they're going to put it through the extraction machine, which basically heats the plant up as much as possible, kills everything, and then ultimately changes it into oil,
Mhm.
which then goes through to the vapes. And then that product also has to be tested again. So, once that oil is put into the vapes, then those vapes get sent out in final form packaging. and then that will get another pass or fail. So if they fail again, then it's kind of like what the F, right? But
Mm.
most likely they're going to pass at that point.
Got it. That seems like a long process. Expensive.
Yeah, so I mean I mean to grow the flower, it's a 4 month process, right? To do the final form, it's probably about another 3 to 4 weeks between the testing, the branding submissions, and actually out to the market.
Got it. Oh my God. There's so much that goes into this.
Yeah, and the cultivation facilities have different rooms, so they try and cycle off when products like coming to market. Because if they are all hitting their harvest at the same time, then it's going to be like a big lag on the brand. So they try and basically create a room a week, a room a week, a room a week, so that they're constantly moving out to the testing phase and ultimately giving it to the consumers.
So there's always product available, you mean?
Always product, there should be always product available, obviously depending on supply and demand, right? At last year we had a issue with supply just because we only had 4 cultivators and a lot more dispensaries were coming on board. Now we're in a good fashion. Ultimately we want to control our own distribution, so that's why we're going the micro cultivation route. We're hopeful to be the second retailer in the state once we get the 8 or 9 facilities open, and then we will want to bring our own products to the market.
Is that going to help with prices in Connecticut?
Theoretically, as more cultivators come on board, it should help with pricing. You'll see in every state that comes on board to recreational or adult use, you'll basically have a call it 20 to 30% price drop from day one to about 2 to 3 years after maturation. And that's because new cultivators or new licenses come on board and supply outweighs the demand and people start lowering prices.
Got it. What do you say to the person that drives up to Mass to get their stuff?
I personally don't um, tell them to not do it, right? I mean, I
Hmm.
say like it's really a personal preference decision. I mean, there are products up there that are going to be better for suited for people's needs, and I totally understand that. It's cheaper as well right now just because of that supply and demand. So if people want to drive 30, 40, 50 minutes, hour, whatever it is for those products and or cheaper prices, no harm, no foul, right? I will educate them on what we have and what we can do and who is our staff to make it more of that brand loyalty, right? It's about our vibe and who we are and what we can do. And there may be a similar product that can help them, right? And save them that trip. So I try and educate them, right? I will never hold a grudge, but keep informing them, and so that they have all the information to make their best decision.
Love that. I feel like it does come down to education. What's the loyalty program that you guys have other than fostering good relationships?
Yeah. So our loyalty program is basically $1 per point that you spend at our stores. Every 250 points, you'll get $5 back. Then we have tiers as well. So basically, just signing up for loyalty, you'll be our normal member. If you spend X amount of dollars, you'll be a silver member and get a few more perks in terms of purchasing power. Then if you go to gold member, that's another, I believe it's $5,000. I should know this, but basically you'll get even higher purchasing power. So every dollar you spend will be like 1.2, 1.3 points earned. And then the last one is VIP. So once you spend $10,000 over your lifetime, then you'll have access to certain events, certain tickets that we get, concerts, dinners, tastings, all that type of stuff that we try and run.
That sounds fun. How many VIP members do you have?
Right now, it's only about 12. So
Exclusive.
yeah, exclusive. So we are increasing that over time. We see our brand loyalty and our retention of customers at a high rate. Hoping that our retention is going to continue that way as new dispensaries come on board. We've built a great brand, and we're hoping that all the time that we've put in over the last 2 to 3 years really keeps that retention there.
I love butter. It's so fun and cool, inviting. I'm like your best customer.
Best customer ever.
We want to know more about you, Carl. Tell us about your story and the butter brand, how it came to be.
Sure. So I left my company back in 2022, and looking for the next thing to do. Always knew that I wanted to run the business in Connecticut. Derek Gibbs, who is our co-founder, was a mutual friend of a friend at the time. This was at the time the lottery was going on. So he was using the same law firm that I was, and basically said, I need an operator because he had a business partner before me that he was going to go forward with. That guy bailed out. So he needs an operator. He has the entrepreneurial mindset, and then our lawyer actually put us together, and we were like, oh, well, we know each other. Like this is easy. So we got together, went to him, broke bread at his Stanford apartment at the time, and just hit it off. I mean, he has a 4-year old and a 1-year old now. I have a 3-year old and 2-year old. So same place, same time in terms of our lives, and decided that we wanted to move forward. Um, so once that happened, we were like, what should we name it, right? And Derek, Derek's old partner actually said, let's call it Budr, Butter, right? And Derek was like, let me send it to one of my friends and his MBA colleagues at that time in UConn. And they were like, why don't you just shorten it? Budr, right? And I was like, he initially told me the name. I was like, honestly, I don't know how I feel about that. And and a couple weeks passed. It got some press that we were opening up in West Hartford. We got the approval in West Hartford, approval by the social equity joint venture, by the state, and then ultimately his old counterpart called him and said, "I don't want you guys to use the names, or use the name Butter." Derek was like, "Oh, I don't really care about the name. Like, we'll figure something out if that's the case, but let me ask Carl." So he calls me and I'm like, honestly,
We're using the
screw
name.
yeah, screw him, right? So I was like, we're using the name, and that's maybe the spiteful Italian side of me coming out, but so that's how we went forward. I mean, like Derek came up with the name and his old partner, and then ultimately we ran with it. I mean, we used Rebel Interactive Agency, that is a marketing agency out of Cheshire, and they created the logo. We knew what we wanted to feel like, homey, welcoming, inviting, and they did a great job. And since then, we've just been constantly going forward with our brand and our brand loyalty, trying to bring it to new states, and ultimately just create that kind of grassroots experience at each of the hyper local levels.
Cool. I love the brand. I love the logo. You didn't speak that it's like a butter, the dripping. I feel like there's
Yeah.
more to it.
So
It's
there
like a
is so
food marketing.
yeah. So
You
we
just need to lean into that more.
yeah. So what we trying to do with our logo was basically create something that was refreshing to the market. Butter is obviously butter. So what does that mean? The dripping aspect of butter and kind of concentrates into kind of the products of cannabis, while being kind of refreshing and inviting, right? So our aspect was it's a standalone B. It could be seen by itself or it can be together with the full logo. So it was important to us to have that because you can see that we create merch as much as possible. We try and create that brand loyalty, give out free stuff to customers and or patients, and just kind of go forward with it. And we created a whole slogan line with butter. So you have butter vibes only. Everything is better with butter. You're my butter half. Like all these types of cool things that really just like when customers come in, they're like, oh, that's a great new slogan, right? Seeing those things and taking time to do those things are really important to us.
I love that. I feel like that was like the thing that got me. Everything's funner with butter. Or
Yeah,
what was the one that you said? What's your
everything
favorite?
is it's my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'll say my favorite is everything is better with butter.
Better with butter. Yeah, yeah,
Better with
yeah.
butter. I would say customers' favorites are you're my butter half.
Cute.
And then you have your toast with your stick of butter or your like two teddy bears, like kind of with the butter logos. So like those two things are probably number one and number two, definitely.
It's like having a moment right now. People are marketing their business with like a food angle. You guys need to lean into that more.
That kind of goes back to the products. So
Okay. Maybe
so
we did get a sneak
we will
peek.
maybe you did get a sneak peek by
Okay.
the virtue of conversation.
Cool.
The reality of the situation is the stigma is still super real. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, everybody runs away from the stigma. I welcome the stigma because it gives me the opportunity to have that conversation with people. Perfect example is my mother. I yeah, I uh, I was in cannabis 8 years ago, and she's like, "What the hell are you doing in cannabis? Like, I don't agree with that at
She
all."
was angry.
She was angry, and happy and angry. Like, I mean, all the emotions that a mother would have, right?
Yeah.
And not seeing eye to eye with her son. That being said, she listened, she learned, she was open-minded. That's the first battle, right? Is being open-minded. Most people aren't when it comes to stigma. But that being said, if you're having the conversation, that means you're furthering the mission, right? And you're furthering that initiative to bring the industry forward. So I'm always trying to have those conversations with people because it really maybe brings a new light to them on my experience. Back to my mother, 7.5 years later, she's now taking edibles at night. She can't sleep. She went through all the processes of taking Ambien, taking sleeping pills, all that type of stuff. And I was like, Mom, just just do this for me.
Did she come to you
She
or
came
not
to me.
really?
I always said like you should take edibles, but then I never like pressed it, right? Because obviously it's still my mother. But I would say last time, this is actually fairly recent, about 6 months ago, she was up at my house with my kids, and I was like, why don't you just try one, right? And you're downstairs, like if anything happens, I'll be right here for you.
Okay.
And
At a party?
no, 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 to go to sleep at my
Oh,
at my
okay.
house.
Okay.
um, so next morning, it's just like I feel absolutely great. I don't feel groggy. I feel I got the sleep that I need. So now she's an edible user, and it's just goes to the transformation of like what you can do and what medical cannabis or cannabis itself can do for people. So breaking that stigma is a brick by brick, right? And it takes everybody in the industry to trying to break that issue, but it's not going to be an overnight thing. It's a long term vision that we need to create.
I feel like we made progress though in recent years.
We have made progress in recent years at the state levels. I would still say at federal level, it's really tough. You're battling with the pharma companies, obviously, that don't want cannabis to be federally legalized because of money. Money is always the initiative. And then ultimately, politics, right? So try and deschedule cannabis uh, is
Huge
just a
undertaking.
huge undertaking, and
Hmm.
people have those party line views. Um, so we'll see. I mean, I've been in it for 8 years. I've been hearing the same story. We'll deschedule or it'll be federally legal. Hasn't happened, and now it's getting pushed off again. So yeah, I mean, we'll see over the next, call it, 5 to 10 years what happens. Hopeful that as new politicians get in, and as the older crowd moves out of DC, then there'll be a more inviting and welcoming type of feel to cannabis.
Got it. What's next for Butter?
What's next for Budr? So we are actively growing. We have 5 stores right now. We're going to have 3 more stores imminently, and that will probably happen sometime in May to June. So that brings us to 7 in the state of Connecticut. We're also building 2 more in Connecticut, either later this year or early next year. So we'll have 9 in Connecticut at the end of the day, plus a micro cultivation facility. That will probably be our cap in Connecticut. We'll look at certain initiatives outside of that, and then we're growing into other states. So New York, we have 1, 2 more facilities coming along the way over the next 12 to 18 months, and then we're looking at pocket states in the tri-state area, like Rhode Island, New Jersey, maybe Mass, but those types of states right in our area. We also want a Kentucky license. Most likely not going to operationalize that just because it's a little far away from home, but still going through that process.
Where can we find you in Connecticut?
So you can find us right now in Danbury, Stratford, which is our medical facility, hybrid facility, Tolland, which is off Yukon exit 68,
Mm-hmm.
and West Hartford, which was our number 1 store back in 2023.
Yonkers is your fifth.
Yonkers is our fifth. You
Got
said
it.
in Connecticut, so ours.
Okay. Got it.
Yonkers is our fifth, and we're opening another store in New York probably in the summer in Rockland County.
Cool. Okay, we're gonna play a little game of this or that. I'm gonna say two things. Don't think about it. Just
What
give
if
me
I
the
don't like
answer.
either?
Then say neither. You'll
This
pick
or that,
something.
neither?
You'll pick something. Ready?
I'm ready.
Coffee or matcha?
Coffee.
Start early or work late?
Work late.
Sauna or cold plunge?
Sauna.
Protein shake or green juice?
Protein shake, hands down.
Power nap or quick workout?
Power nap.
Impact or income?
Impact.
Meeting or email?
Email.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Call or text?
Text.
One-on-one or grouping?
That's a tough one. Depends with who. Yeah.
Okay.
Group group hang, most likely.
Okay. Work from home or office energy?
Office energy for
I knew
sure.
you'd say that. A night in or out?
What was that?
A night in or out?
Night out just because I don't get them much anymore with the kids.
Dinner or brunch?
Dinner,
Indica or sativa?
sativa. But that's a bad question.
Why?
Because that's why we don't educate on indica sativa.
You
It's
don't?
terpenes.
Yeah, but I feel like if you give them like the overarching, you have to be like, this is cannabis, there's cannabinoids, the two most studied. I don't know. Isn't that how you categorize most of your strains?
So we didn't get into it, but like we do categorize indica or sativa, but that is not the commonplace on how you should choose your product. It's terpene because an indica lineage can still have mostly sativa dominant terpenes. So the effect
Okay.
is way different than what you would expect. So I'd always say click in to our
Mm-hmm.
products, look at the terpenes on the website, and make sure that even though it's indica, it's really your indica leaning terpenes because there's a lot that aren't.
Got it. So how do you make that distinction then if it's wrong?
Well, you have to look at the terpenes, and that's why we try and educate all of our customers to say basically, click in if you're at home looking at flower, understand how you want to feel, and then
Mhm.
click into each of the flowers and make sure it has X, Y, and Z terpenes in it.
Did you guys make that wheel?
We did.
Love that wheel.
That wheel is very helpful for us.
Cool. Thank you.